Hello, everyone. Welcome on in. It's the Betting Weekly Dojo, a weekly start to the week here on the Betting Weekly Studios. And as per usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Neil Channing, who's on his travels yet again. Before I introduce you to Neil, please may I ask you to hit the subscribe button, give us a like, give us your comments, let us know what you think about the dojo. Any subjects? I mean, this is one thing that me and Neil struggle a little bit now, as we've been doing this for some time, thinking of new, fresh ideas. If there's something you want us to cover here on the dojo, please put it on the comment section on the page. But before you do that, hit the like, hit the subscribe. That will really help us out on the algorithms as we move on towards 12,000 subscribers here on the channel. Good morning to you, Neil. Nice. I got you up nice and early. I know you. I didn't give you the official time, so I had to ring you to make sure you got up. But nice early start here. We didn't see each other last week, did we? So how are you?
No, I feel bad actually that we didn't see each other last week. I don't know what happened there. It was a combination of the Gallagher brothers and me being.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Doing a bit of travelling, and I think it was. I was in a hotel. I think this time last week, which is I've become like on 40 Towers, like the Major. I've lived about 40 nights this year in the same hotel. But anyway, I'm in a nice a different place this week, so I'm quite pleased about that. I've actually got really fast internet for the
Can't believe it.
first time ever. So it's no, it's good. There's been a hectic week though, hasn't it? Since I spoke to you last, obviously we've had the start of the NFL, and the tennis has been really busy. I've been enjoying that. But I found I've missed a few sports. Somebody messaged me the other day. There was it wasn't a test match, so I didn't have to worry about laying the draw, but there was a big cricket match, England against South Africa, that was quite interesting from a betting point of view, and I didn't even notice it. I just forgot all about it. I ended up actually missing the men's final of the tennis, just because there's so much going on, isn't there? I mean, it's sort of lucky that we had an international break on the football, because I don't get too involved in the international matches, so it was good to not have one extra thing to think about. But I don't know, how many sports have you been talking about and betting on in the last week?
Quite a lot. I mean, I've had a very busy couple of weeks, as you'll be able to see from my social medias. But I find this time of the year impossible. I actually crashed out when I come back from New York. I slept for 17 hours. I've never done that. Never. I have a little kip on the plane. 3 hours, come back.
Well, presumably you slept on the plane because you never read a book, you never watch a movie, and you could just record the flight thing telling you, the map telling you how far there is to go. I mean,
it's the least thing. I like to know where I am in the world. So when you travel to Europe, I look out the window. Oh, that's Albania down there. Or this is like I'm trying to look for.
Not you were flying from New York to Gatwick.
I know, but when you go across Europe, but when you go to New York, there's nothing. Oh, there's water. Oh, we're near Greenland. Oh,
if you see Albania, it's bad.
We got the wrong driver, wrong pilot. But I don't read anything. I don't even charge my earplugs up to listen to any music. I tried to listen to the little thing on the BA thing to try to listen to the music, but all they had was live BBC versions of albums, which I lasted about a minute. So I had a meal and I went to sleep. But anyway, I crashed out completely. I've had a busy week. Got a telephone call to say, do I want to go to Coldplay on Friday? Not really my kind of thing, but
it's funny, isn't it? You have to say that these days. People, I really used to really like Coldplay when their first two albums came out, and then suddenly it became embarrassing to say that you liked Coldplay. And,
I like a couple of their songs, but I wouldn't. He's too arty for me. Nah, I'm rock and roll star.
It's a big kind of show, though, isn't it? Like it's a stadium show.
Yeah, it must be an orchestra.
I've never been to see them.
Yeah, there's an orchestra at the beginning. It's but it's like theatrical. It's like a bit poncy for me, really. To be fair, I mean, I'm more rock and roll, like you sweaty kind of venues. But I mean, it was good. It was great. It was good. But I had that. Then obviously I had this thing planned weeks ago, so I haven't really watched a lot of sport. But when I tried to keep up with it. I mean, now with the NFL, I mean, it is literally wake up in the morning, rugby league, I love the old NRL, bit of rugby league, straight into like the UK sports, the early racing, then you go into the football, then we have the tennis all around 4:00, then the NFL. I mean, I'm absolutely zonked out with it. I mean, you're the king of staying up all night watching
I've
sports.
struggled a bit
You
in
were
the
watching.
last
You were
week.
watching the World Tetris Championships the other day. I could see on my. I was
I
watching the
didn't.
World Tetris Championships.
I mean,
Unbelievable.
as you know, I don't watch a lot of the sports that I bet on because I feel like, well, a lot of them where I'm just following somebody else. I don't have an opinion. So soccer, I literally have no opinion. The guy sent me 2 bets this week, and he doesn't do the international stuff. So he sent me 2 from the National League, and I just completely forgot all about them. And obviously, they both won. But I wouldn't, that wouldn't take up much of my time. The soccer, it's like a 2-minute job putting the bets on, and the NFL was really hard work getting all the action down. I had a hell of a lot of bets this week. I didn't play quite as big. Our NFL guy, he said to me, "Well, because we're betting a lot of people to score a touchdown." Talked about that in the last show. Obviously, when you get a lower scoring week, it can be a bit painful if you bet lots of people to score because you get a lot of matches where there's only 1, 2, or 3 touchdowns, and if you're betting people to score, you really want matches where there are 5, 6, and 7 touchdowns. Now, there's been this common thing in the NFL. I don't know how much you looked at the NFL yesterday, but generally speaking, people will say that in the first couple of weeks of the season, the defenses have an edge because offense is a bit more complicated to learn. I guess is one of the reasons people, are learning new playbooks. And star players have often been on holdout where they're kind of on strike trying to get a better deal for the new season, and they don't always attend the training camp as early as some the younger players might, the newer players might do, and they're not involved in the pre-season as much. So then they drop in, and that means there's turnaround in personnel, and it's hard for them to gel together in the first week. Whereas defense, it doesn't matter so much. Big hefty guys running into people. It's pretty broadly the same whoever's doing it. That's a simplification, but you know what I mean. Now that's sort of carried on over the years. Really, the first week is always traditionally a bit of a lower scoring week, and then last week in the college football, it sort of seemed to happen a little bit. And I must have heard a dozen people in the last week say, "Oh, this first week is going to be really low scoring because of all the reasons I just said." And I thought, the market can hear you. It's not like the odds. The original person who put up the first line, and the millions of dollars that have pounded that into shape. And obviously, they've been betting on these games for months and months and months and months now. The first week of the season. It's not like they haven't thought about any of that. The totals were lower than they would normally be if this was kind of week 6 of the season. And I have to say, I listened to a lot of those people and just thought, God, this is such a mug view. It's just such a square, bare view that they're just repeating talking points. And you can't beat a sophisticated market where, it's one of the most liquid markets in sports betting by just having very beige and standard opinions across, and saying, well, look, there's 15 games and, they're all going to be whatever. I actually can't remember now. They're all going to be under because, because of those things that I said. But, like that just seemed like how could you win money like that? Obviously, it came in massively under. There was only about 3 or 4 overs in the whole slate. And all those people are absolutely, I can just hear them now. At work this morning, how'd you go on the NFL? Yeah, I did really well. Yeah, I had this idea that the defenses would dominate. And, I read a thing in the USA Today on Thursday saying that because it happened in the college football last week, it was bound to happen in the NFL. And, I bet under every game. I mean, and those people have won. I don't know. I find that sort of slightly annoying. I haven't even had a particularly bad week. I mean, it wasn't great. But, I played a bit smaller. I had loads of bets, but I played smaller than I normally would. And I've definitely had more winners than losers. And it's definitely a minus figure. But I definitely feel like you know, when we used to be booking bets on soccer all those years ago, and you know, everyone would say, "Oh, this soccer game is going to be end to end, and the goals are trading at 2.8 to 3.1, which in those days was unheard of. That was like a hugely high scoring game, and then it finished 4-3, and we'd lose, and you just think, yeah, well, we're going to get that back next week because that's just like very standard. And I never really thought, oh, I've got to reassess, you know, maybe soccer's changing or anything. And I don't really think that about the NFL. Maybe next week the offenses will start to gel a bit more and the totals will trade a little bit higher. And the same people that won last week betting under will all bet under again. And maybe, average over the season, the points will be lower in week 2 than they are average over the season, but so will the market. And the market will adapt. I don't know. What do you think about any of that?
That's pretty standard for all leagues, isn't it? I mean, soccer seasons in the first. I mean, we've had 2 or 3 crazy seasons in the Premier League where goals have been exceptionally high, and the start of this season across the Premier League, the goals have come in low. You've been betting unders, you've been cashing, but it's always seasonal, isn't it? The Premier League was always week. Well, I still think you go by the old guidebook rather than go for the first month, second month. Then we get to sort of November and goals go up, and then they sort of change a little bit, and various different periods at different times. And what your first season plays there on what the public have got the money on the unders in the NFL is very similar to what the public try to do in the Premier League. And the final day of the season is they all go the overs. And last year we made a massive case for it on the Dojo. It gave like 10 years worth of trends.
Really happen, did it?
The way you make money is bet over 3.5, and we had the lowest ever final week in the Premier League. So they all, I think each match has to be on its own.
That thing with the Premier League, it definitely does seem like the market. I mean, okay, obviously it didn't work out.
But how do we explain
last
that then?
season? But that's the 1 year trends, isn't it? I mean, I feel like the market hasn't. The market always assumes that there are regression to the mean. That it tends towards the mean, doesn't it? As a thing, markets generally don't like to be out on a limb. You probably think in tennis matches with total games. I don't know. What do you think about this? If you bet all the ones that are over 45.5 to go over, and all the ones that are under 25.5 to go under, do you think you'd make money?
Probably yes.
Because the market can never really see, oh, we just can't go that low. There's enough people that come in and just say, oh my God, that's the lowest I've ever seen, I have to bet over.
Well, I remember one of the NFL traders back in the day said to me that if you ever see, you're talking about line movements and total goals in Premier League football matches, 2.8, 3.1 were unheard of. If you had an NFL match that was 52 bid, 52, 55, a line of 50, that was unheard. That was most of them were around about 43.5. 42.5, and then he had one that's, and he said to me, you just bet them blind, those ones that are 10 points higher than the average. If you bet the over blind in those, you will not lose money. And when you look at it, it's probably right. It's probably all sports, isn't it? Goals that are now 3.5 games, or sometimes in Asian handicaps 3.75 games in the Premier League. I suppose if you bet them all the time rather than look for a reason to oppose them, which I do. My way of thinking sometimes is to try to find a reason why the market is wrong, and perhaps we.
I don't really like to do that too much. But what I think with the soccer is that you got to find the kind of teams, haven't you? Last year there were 2 or 3 teams in the Premier that you could say, oh, these are the real over teams, and I'm going to stick with them. And I tended to do that a little bit, and I don't know. Do you think those teams have changed? They change a lot year by year.
Well, I think this year in the Premier League is I think we're going to have a huge differential between teams at home and teams away already. I think it's going to be very tight at the bottom of the table, and teams have to play a very different format in their formation and the way they approach matches at home compared to the way years ago you would have two teams at the bottom of the table, and the old cliche, which I use many a times, they'd both be happy for a point. I don't think that necessarily is going to be the case this year. I think teams at the bottom of the table have to win their home matches. And when they go away from home, they, especially against the big 4 or 5, I think they're going to ease up a little bit more and they could get smashed. For example, the perfect example of that is Leeds so far this season. Brilliant win on the opening day against Everton. A good Everton side, played really well. Second game, went away to Arsenal, didn't do anything and just, had their tummies rubbed and got beat 5-0. You're going to get that. And I think that you're going to get transitions between home and away here, which are bigger than what we've seen for many, many years. Sunderland got to make home impossible, won their 2 home matches away from home, got beat by Burnley, worst team in the league. Burnley lost both their away matches, won their home match. That's what you're going to see in the Premier League this year. Teams, not necessarily goals, but I think teams are going to really go for their home matches and think if we win our home matches, we're going to stay in the Premier League, and I think they're going to go for it. Again, all the matches sort of mid-table down, but against the top sides, I think they're going to find it difficult. But they're going to be a lot more home wins.
Also, just talking about all these sports that are going on. I mean, I in amongst it all, I managed to miss the whole Rory McIlroy thing yesterday because I was just so busy with others. There was quite big horse racing yesterday. There was a load of races in France that were trials for the Arc de Triomphe, and I was quite involved in that. And the NFL just is all consuming, really. Plus, I've started doing a bit of baseball as well recently, which I hadn't done for a few years. It doesn't take up much time, and it's just a couple of guys sending me stuff and just getting the bets on. Not really that difficult.
And hopefully, you'll be watching Betting Weekly Hardball with Doug Kazarian.
Well,
obviously,
love to watch Doug Kazarian on Betting Weekly Hardball. I love Doug, actually. He's brilliant. Did you watch him with Steve Wiss talking about his dog? Predicting the NFL results.
I mean, they got off to a winning start. Cricket, the
cat and the dog.
The cat's got to a winning start. We're clawing. We're
I'm
clawing anything we possibly can and win
this. Basically, I mean, I'm coming in on Monday morning thinking, "Oh my god, how much have I lost yesterday?" And the cat and the dog are absolutely laughing at me.
Well, where you are, they got Terry the tarantula, so we're going to have him on next week.
Yeah, we're flat sitting for someone at the moment, and they have a pet tarantula. It's funny, the day that the guy left, he said, "Oh, you don't have to do anything with it. I'm just going to feed it now." And he gives it some crickets. And,
not the cat. Not the cat. No, crickets. Okay.
He threw some crickets in there, and he said, "Oh, you don't have to worry because that's enough to last the whole time you're away." I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem right, does it? How does the tarantula know that you're not going to get fed again for another 2 weeks?
Got his eyes on you, Neil. He's kind of thinking Terry the tarantula on tennis. That sounds pretty cool. TTT.
It's got a lock on the tank. I do sometimes go and have a quick look to make sure it's still in there.
He spent a lot of money on the internet, but he's obviously saving on light bulbs. That's the difference between.
I think if you're a tarantula owner, you're bound to have a more sort of dark interior to your place. That's the two things are correlated. You can't put those in a parlay. Nobody would let you. Tarantula owners and lack of light bulbs. That's a correlated parlay. But yeah, no, the whole week was mad, wasn't it? I mean, you obviously were at the tennis, so that was probably the sport that was dominating for you. But did you find when you were there, it was hard to focus on? What were the sports that you missed out on this week that you would normally be looking at? You don't look at the cricket, the Premier League, golf very much.
No, not really. I mean, the soccer, obviously, but we've spoken about it before. I think the time zone in America is perfect. You get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, straight into the sports bar to watch the Premier League, straight out again. Then you got the tennis. Do you
remember we used to work with a guy in London, and he quit and he went off to live in Hong Kong for a little while and work in Hong Kong, and he was doing soccer betting. And after 6 months in Hong Kong, he suddenly announced that he was going to a new country to make a life for himself. He was quite a young guy at that time. And as far as I know, I haven't really kept in touch with him, but as far as I know, he's still there. And he said he basically picked the country based on where was the best place to live from a time zone for betting point of view. And he picked Brazil because he liked to bet on soccer and he could get it all done He'd wake up quite early, get all his bets on, watch the games, and it'd all be done by lunchtime, and hit the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds brilliant, doesn't it? I often think about him in a jealous way, actually.
I mean that's perfect. I mean that we've spoken about it before in the times of the Americans. They go into the tennis and then straight into the American sports is absolutely perfect. So that was, but that we missed out on that. But the tennis itself was, it's very difficult to have a bet there because you have seats in the Al Thrash Stadium, and they put the matches on there that are very, very heavy favourites. And then when you go to the outside courts, they're so busy to get in that you don't really see. So you have to watch. But there was one funny story. There was we backed Barbara Krejcikova to win the tournament from Rory and to win a quarter. And she played an American called Taylor Townsend. And the game was on Grandstand Court. You had no chance getting on Grandstand Court. But Arthur Ashe come out. There's 23,000 people in Arthur Ashe. So Arthur Ashe finished, and the whole of the 23,000 congregated around these waterfalls to watch on the big screen this Taylor Townsend v. Krejcikova match. And Taylor Townsend was the hope of the Americans. She had 8 match points in the match, and Krejcikova was coming back. But all of them were cheering. All of them were cheering and cheering on the Taylor Townsend, and everyone was going crazy. But she couldn't convert a match point, and you could hear a pin drop every time she missed it, and the sighs, and I was just sitting on my own in this area of 23,000 Americans, and every time Krejcikova saved a match point, I went, and like literally everyone was looking around at me thinking, who is this nutter? And like literally every single time she got a break.
That must happen a lot when you go to sports.
Oh yeah, I was like, which Krejcikova? And then everyone was kind of, are you from the Czech Republic? Oh, yeah, I'm from Czech. Krejcikova. I didn't want to tell them, no, I better to win the quarter, and I better 80-1 to win the tournament. So we were cheering and cheering.
I know you have a big view though that like hometown advantage and crowd support makes a big difference. Do you obviously think that the market doesn't accommodate that enough? And do you think that in all tennis matches or just in like the Grand Slams?
Well, I think less the Grand Slams. I mean, we were on a court as well where we bet Zhao Munard to beat Denis Shapovalov. No, not Denis Shapovalov. It was the other Canadian. Diallo. And it was just full of Canadians. And we was go, vamos, 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 anyone. But there was nothing to do with the crowd there. It was clearly the Diallo had an injury. But when you go to the 250 events, and there is not the centre court, but go to court 2, court 3, there's literally like 15 people, 20 people there. You can definitely have an influence on that match without a shadow of a doubt. If you've got 15 players and they're playing for nothing, they're playing for a couple of grand.
Presumably, those younger players, is more of a thing. If you're sort of old grizzled veteran, you don't really care.
But you want to
be 12 people there or 20 people there, or if they're cheering your name or whatever.
I think everybody wants to be loved, doesn't they? It doesn't matter.
I love you, Nigel.
You want to have a little bit. You want to be. If there's 50 people there, you want some of them to cheer for you. I think it does help you in some kind of degree. I wouldn't say it's massive, but I think home advantage, as we said again, I think it's diminishing across sports. But obviously, the Premier League here, the bottom sides have got to win. Leeds, for example, and Sunderland in those bottom league is going to make the only way they're going to survive is to make that as most, and Everton in there who are going to make that most sort of intimidating as they possibly can. But I do think it's an advantage, definitely, especially when you go to the venue and you actually see it. But not on all of them. I mean, there's no way 23,000 people in Arthur Ashe is not going to make much of a difference. But the American, but that's factored in. But some of these little tournaments, definitely. I mean, the tennis was good. It was good.
You just said something about lower league, and it made me think of something I read this week. I don't know whether you saw it. I should try and send it to you probably. I read a brilliant thing about the transfer deadline. I don't know whether it was in the Guardian or something. And it was about Stockport County and how they approached the transfer deadline, and they kind of followed them around for the day. The people there on, I don't know what would they call those staff, the development office or something. And it talked about, it reminded me of Moneyball, the movie Moneyball with the baseball, shooties. They had a kind of a big table of all, 300 people that they could possibly be interested in signing and what the maximum they could pay for each one. And they said literally they were just, on the phone all day, how much for this guy, how much for this guy, how much for this guy. And then they're just like, no, 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 can't have him. He's going there. And then they had the captain had once played with this guy that they were hoping to attract on loan. And, they got him in and he rung him up and said, oh, it's a great place to come and you'll love it and I'll look after you and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I read that and I couldn't help thinking, I can't believe every club is as good as this. And this must give a smaller club a massive edge if they've got this side of it locked up. Do you think the market just gets all that and there's that doesn't give you any real edge at all or not?
He didn't do many favours at the weekend. They got battered by Plymouth 3-1. I would imagine. I would
just doing that.
I would imagine every
club not so good.
I can imagine a lot of League Two, League One clubs now. Like
it's much more professional.
Yeah, much more fair. I mean,
but when we're talking about like Tony Bloom pumping money into Hearts, would that be a situation where they go from being rubbish at that stuff to brilliant at that stuff, or would they be quite good at that stuff already?
But I can't imagine old Jock McSweeney, the scout for Hearts, being used much more now that he's been done. I would. Well, I think the best thing for Hearts, from the Hearts perspective, is they're going to have a lot of loan deals. They're going to get people from Brighton, they're going to get people from Midtjylland, they're going to get loan deals. So that helps them in their favour.
Well, that was the thing that Stockport were finding, because Stockport itself, I don't know whether you're kind of into that, but Manchester is such a developing town now, and it's gone like London. There's cranes everywhere. They're just building new apartments left, right, and centre. I mean, most of them are empty, but they just keep building them and flogging them off. And so Stockport has become a kind of trendy suburb of Manchester, which is almost kind of sucked into Manchester. And it's a place where people want to go and live. And I sort of think, well, that's got to be really good for the football team, you would think. But they're easier to attract players and more supporters coming in and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're a club that have done well, incredibly well. I mean, it'd be easier for them to lure them there to say for a club like Barrow, for example, I suppose, like, in the north of England, northeast of England. But I think you'll find a lot of them. I mean, people I know, I mean, there's a development there's a head of loans at AFC Wimbledon. There was the head of loans, and he would get all the loan players, and they were fantastic at loan players. They bought Aaron Ramsdale coming to save them from I think it was at Bournemouth at the time, or Southampton. Yeah, Bournemouth he was. They brought in the other goalkeeper last season. I can't remember his name now. He was exceptionally good. They brought in some exceptionally good players. So there's in a lower league football club, they'd have a loan guy, they'll have a development guy who'll let you know when the kids are ready. They'll have 3 or 4 scouts rather than just one scout. I remember when David Moyes went to Everton. I knew the guy who was working at Everton, and I think Everton at a particular time. So David Moyes was manager at Everton, and Everton had, I think, 3 or 4 scouts maybe in the Premier League club, 3 or 4 scouts. And then he went to Manchester, and Manchester United had 60 scouts, in 2 or 3 in every different country. And it just blew him away how much they had. But I think people have looked at that, and I would guess, I mean, I'm not anyone in the show, watching the show might have more details into the breakdown of this, but from my very small experience, it's a lot more professional than you think. Back in the day when the manager went to the chairman and go, they've seen this bloke down the park and they want 10 grand and some tracksuits, and he has a fag and says, oh, no, I'm not sure. It's very, very different.
No, I was listening to something also this week about Forest Green Rovers, and they've got that guy, what's he called? Ecotricity, the green electric company, has put the money behind them. And, they basically got a lot of money, I think. And but they seem to be spending really well. They're a clever club that are thinking about the future. And I just feel like it seems inevitable that they just go up a couple of divisions in the next.
But they've dropped a couple of divisions, don't they?
They did, yeah. They had a mess up, didn't they? They got a funny manager in.
Well, they won't
work out.
I
think they had 2 people quit at the same time, didn't they? The development. He was talking about that on this podcast. The development officer and the manager quit at the same time, and then they just had a really bad year after that.
But the manager's fallen out with it. He's made people eat stinging nettle sandwiches and things like this to like
very nice.
Sticking it's very nice. And so he's fallen out of a lot. Duncan Ferguson has fallen out of it, but he got the new managers now is Robbie Savage. So Robbie Savage is the manager, and they're in non-league, and they got the money, but the thing is to keep them there in the money. But they're a good. I mean, you mentioned the. You mentioned. I was going to mention you. You mentioned Hearts, and then we've mentioned. Now, anyone who's
actually, there's been reading a lot of football articles this week. There was an article in the Observer, a big profile on Tony Bloom, but obviously, as usual, he didn't say here's the secrets to how to bet on football. He just talked about Brighton and stuff like that. I mean, I read the whole thing just in case, but. No, but he did talk about Brighton and stuff, and it was sort of I can't remember exactly. I've read so much about football this week. There was he was sort of saying that people try and copy us all the time, and we have to always be one step ahead. And I did think like a couple of years ago they seemed to be signing like loads of South American players, and I thought, well, that's interesting. It must be because the economy of some of the countries in Argentina, the economy 3 years ago was not doing too great. And he seemed to sign a lot of Argentinians, and presumably it was easy to attract them to Europe at that stage. They seem to have slightly ditched that now, and they're going for more like African and Asian players and stuff. I just feel like they're always one step ahead, and it's hard for people to catch up with them.
Yeah, I mean they're doing well as well. Obviously, they beat Manchester City before the Champions League break as well. But some of the players, but some of the things he's done, his business sense in terms of football is better than anybody else. It's absolutely incredible. But buying these players, selling them for huge profit. João Pedro's obviously gone now to Chelsea, who's done exceptionally well. Casiedo.
When you compare, actually, you mentioned Chelsea, like the complete opposite end of the spectrum is Chelsea, isn't it? They're just awful at all of that stuff. And actually, if you look at the club that Brighton seem to sell to the most, it's Chelsea, basically.
Well, there was,
in horse racing, people sort of say, horses switch stables, and people often say, "Oh, that's a trainer upgrade." They've gone from a moderate trainer to an outstanding trainer, and the horse will definitely improve immediately. The market always anticipates that anyway. I think, like, if you were a football club, like, why would you ever want to buy players off of Brighton? Because you'd feel like, well, if they want to get rid of them, there must be a reason.
Well, the only person he's ever got rid of that I think got rid of him for free, didn't he? Gyökeres, who's just gone for 80 million to Arsenal. So that could be the only one that you might look back and think, but there'll be a reason why.
Him awake at night.
He'll probably say that there's a reason why. But Gyökeres was the one that Brighton did. I'm sure they let him go for a free or very minimal fee. And then I think he went to Blackburn, didn't he? And then the rest is history. Went to Arsenal for 60, 70 million. Anyway, look at it. The reason I want to talk about Hearts is obviously if you're watching the Dojo throughout the season and throughout our shows, you will know we have some themes that we like to talk about. Now, obviously, Neil has highlighted you about the Test cricket. The draw. We know we always fade the draw in Test cricket, and it's been profitable. And we mentioned throughout the week's Hearts. So I've got to have a little thing at the end of the show called Hearts Watch, just to see how Hearts are getting on at the moment. Now,
oh, come on, Nigel. There's Heart Attack was right there for you, and you missed it.
Well, no, Hearts. Well, this is. I don't want a heart attack. I don't want to. I tell you, I want to spread love.
No, but it's soccer, isn't it? Attack. It's
well, Hearts. We're going to do the heart attack. But I've been to a Coldplay concert. It's all about peace and love. That's what I'm the new me. If last week after Oasis, I would have told you it'd be definitely Heart Attack, but it's Heart Watch. Or love Hearts after the Coldplay concert.
Hearts.
But anyway, Hearts have been our sort of team to look out for, and I think they were around 25 to 1 when we mentioned to win.
20. I think they were 20 to 1.
They're now single figures across the board, at top of the table after Celtic and Rangers dropped points in Scotland. They both drew in a 0-0 draw. Hearts should have won. They drew again, but they're now on the same level of points as Celtic at the top of the table, now single figures. But the next game,
what price are they without the top two?
I don't know. We like them
because we highlighted that minus $1.10.
Minus $1.10. I'll find that in a second for you. But this weekend, Neil, here we go. This weekend, they travel to. They're minus $2 now to win without the top two. But this weekend it faces their biggest challenge. They are away at Glasgow Rangers. Now Glasgow Rangers are a giant of Scottish football, but they haven't won a match yet. 4 matches, 4 draws, out of Europe as well. Really bad season. Now, when I came on to this show, I had the odds comparison site up in front of me to see what price Hearts were.
Plus 300?
Plus 350. And
wow.
It's being nibbled.
I haven't looked. That was
it's being nibbled.
Guess.
It's being nibbled. So this weekend, now this time, to show you what a rebase on, last season, Rangers were minus $4 for this fixture. They're now minus 136. And that was only a matter of months away because it was sort of towards the end of last season. So a big rebase.
Well, I mean, you have to have a nibble, don't you? At plus 350, that looks kind of a tempter, doesn't it?
I like the draw no bet, or I like the plus a half.
Yeah,
get the draw. The draw's a good result. Going to Rangers. I'm going to be on Hearts. Rangers are die. Could be the end of the Rangers manager if they don't win this match. It could be fine. But if Hearts win this match,
the minus $2 will be under pressure if they get a result here.
Well, if they win this,
looking at minus 350.
They're clear second favourites to win the division.
Any minus 110 dockets are starting to look interesting.
Unfortunately, we're not tying the money up on this show for 9 months.
I don't mind tying a little bit up sometimes.
Yeah, we need to use it on better things like the World Tetris Championship.
talking about tying
sumo
up.
coming up.
Talking about tying up.
No, I don't want to know about your what's going on.
No, but you started off talking about how much stuff is going on and how busy it is. And now, of course, we're through the weekend and we've got a few quieter days before the madness of next weekend. I like to try and I think when there is so much sport going on, you said to me off air, I expect you'll have a few days off now. Have you ever met me? No chance that happens. But what I do think is really important when it's really busy time like this is to do your prep. If you come in and you've already thought 2 weeks ahead, you're not so susceptible to sentiment, and because we like to price things up early, have an idea of what we make it before we see the market, and think about things in advance. And the thing that I'm really looking forward to that comes up this month, is only every 2 years, is the Ryder Cup. Every 2 years on the golf. So I haven't actually been doing too much golf since the Open. I keep an eye on it, but I don't think I've had a bet on the golf since the Open. But I'm certainly going to start prepping hard on the Ryder Cup this week, and I'm sure proper golf heads have been prepping for 2 weeks already. But we know a bit more about who's going to play now, and I can start thinking about who's likely to pair with who, that kind of thing. They have some quite good markets. Like one of the markets they always have is who will make the first tee shot for each team on the opening day, which is a very interesting market. I always like that one. It sounds pretty random, doesn't it? Like,
wouldn't it be your best player, Scotty Scheffler? Would it be?
Well, I tell you what, because they play foursomes on the first morning, which means your two fellas hit the same ball. So one guy takes the first shot, the other guy takes the second shot, the first guy takes the third shot, and so on. So you need to look at the holes. If you see that the second hole favours someone that hits it a long way, and the fourth hole is a par 5 and that kind of thing, then you say, okay, well, the longest guy has to be the tee shot on the even numbers, whereas the shorter guy has to be the tee shot on the odd numbers. So you've got to look at the course like that. And then the other thing is, you don't necessarily put up people, you wouldn't really put a rookie up to take the first shot of the Ryder Cup. That would be a bit crazy. And people that have done it before are often, quite likely because but the real thing, the massive clue is because of this foursomes, they use, you're hitting the same ball. So player A and player B from Europe are going to hit alternate shots hitting the same ball. Well, all golfers use different kinds of golf balls. So people that play titless balls compared with people that play, whatever, Slazenger, they, I don't think anyone uses that now, but whatever. I couldn't think of the name of a golf ball off the top of my head. But, you make a list of who plays which ball. And then that most likely they're going to pair, particularly the Europeans. Actually, the Americans, the last Ryder Cup didn't really do that so much. They focused a bit more on who were mates and who played together in the past and that kind of thing. But the Europeans they realise there's a huge disadvantage hitting a golf ball that you're not used to hitting. And they made sure they always paired people with people hitting the same ball. So you can kind of, if you make a list of which golf ball each person plays, it gives you a much clearer indication of who's going to be paired with who. And once you know who's going to be paired with who, and you can see which is the longer hitter of the two, you can know who's going to play hole 1, who's going to play hole 2 first. You should be able to narrow it down to just a few people that can hit the tee shot. And it's normally the favourite's normally like 5-1 on this market. So I think there's plenty of edge in that. I'm going to do a lot of work on that in the next 2 days, and I'll come up with the answer. The worst thing that would happen is I do all that work and then nobody offers the market. That would be really annoying.
Well, I'm looking at the last 2 Ryder Cups, and the guy who started first in the last 2 Ryder Cups for Europe is John Rahm.
There we go.
So, and Scotty Scheffler was the guy last year. So Rahm and Hatton teed off last year against Scheffler.
Yeah, Rahm and Hatton. I was reading something a few days ago. I've been doing a lot of reading this week. I was reading something about saying that they thought Rahm and Hatton would be paired again this year. Go around the golf course swearing and shouting and throwing their clubs around.
Yeah, perfect.
That's what they do.
Sounds like an afternoon with me on the golf course with Simon Holden. Talking to Simon Holden, you'll be able to follow him on the Ryder Cup. Got a couple of live shows on Betting Weekly Live. We'll also have some exclusive Instagram content as well around Simon Holden's local golf club going through the matches. And ironically, Bet Rivers are one of the shortest prices Europe in the world in the Ryder Cup. That'll be covered in the next couple of weeks. It is a great tournament, and we'll have it here as a special here on the Betting Weekly Studios. As well as that, Premier League is back. Extra Time is back. The European leagues are back on Thursday and Friday. And obviously there's no ATP Tour tennis this week, but there is WTA tennis, and there is a preview show of myself and Rory Giovanni looking at the 2 tournaments in Guadalajara and Sao Paulo over in Brazil. Perfect timing for anyone in Brazil to have a few bets on that after the Premier League and watch the game as well. So then watch a bit of tennis as well. Now, Neil, I've got to go because I don't want to rub it in. I've got a taxi picking me up, taking me to Gatwick Airport. I'm off to Greece. I'm going to go a week away in the sunshine while there's no tennis going on. So a week back away, I'll still be doing the Premier League show, and I'll be back next Tuesday when Neil will be travelling on Monday. That's it for this week's Betting Weekly Dojo. Hope you've enjoyed it. Good luck with your bets this week, Neil.
Yeah, well, thank you. I dare say I'll find something to bet on. Week 2 of the NFL is going to dominate my week, I guess.
All we got to do is find out whatever Arthur and cricket are doing, and we will be okay. Don't worry about that. Have you covered here on the Betting Weekly? Steve Wishes Betting Zoo. That's where you're going to find all the action on the NFL. Take care. Speak to you all again next week. And if you like the content here, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. BettingWeeklyStudios.com is free. Betting Weekly newsletter is out later on today, on Monday, and the Insider is released on Friday. Loads of exclusive content there from the team. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care, and we'll speak to you again next Tuesday.